is Scotland, The Drive, with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.
Well, welcome to another edition of Scotland the Drive. It's edition 3.
It certainly is.
We've made it this far.
I know. Some people thought we'd never get past 1.5, and that was just being in each other's company.
So we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts about how it's going, how you think it's going. We've had a few comments.
Indeed, yeah. It's been quite interesting reading and listening to some of the comments as well, because people have been talking to us about it. I've just jotted some of them down that came in on the email. Give you the email address in a moment. Derek Semple said, "Love the podcast, guys. Recommending it to all my friends," which is good. Thank you very much indeed. George Anderson, as a regular visitor to Knock Hill, thought the interview with Gillian Shedden was first class. Thank you, George.
No, she was good.
She was good. Good information as well.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Bill Rayside said, "I want to win one of your mugs, Ali, and please, not as you said, you're getting a used one." Well, we've got something different for you. We'll give you a mug as well. We'll put a mug in this week's.
You're so
I know. I said this week's edition, but this edition, we've got a special prize coming up for you. And it's all got to do with the test drive we've got running. So hang fire for that, but listen to what's going on. And Jenny Drysdale said, "Thanks, guys. A podcast about motoring that's entertaining and not about two guys with an ego."
Oh.
I wonder who could they be talking about?
What's she been watching?
I don't know. Jeremy, sit down. Anyway,
Right.
And there's another one here. Here's one that came in.
Well, this looks like a long one.
I need the glasses on for this one.
Oh, dear.
All right, so it comes from Sandy Wilkie, and he was talking about the Scottish Car of the Year, which he was actually at, which was great. And he says, "I have gone down the all-electric route. I take it you guys are not fans." Did we ever say that?
No, we never said that. No, I'm not fans of the infrastructure, but
No.
I like I like most of the electric cars, but there are issues.
Yes. Anyway, Sandy says, "I've been driving from 1965 in an all-weather condition."
You must be tired.
No, I thought it was more like 1865 of his age. Anyway, across a wide range of vehicles. This will be my first winter in an all-electric, and given that my Volvo EX30 Ultimate Extended Range is fully automatic and a few hundred kilos lighter than my previous car, the XC40, how do you feel they will handle in snowy or icy conditions? Have you two had any experience? I actually don't think I have in an electric car in snow or ice, Sandy. We've been told by a Tesla driver that he's on the other side of the camera. Trust me, it's the best side for him to be on. Anyway, he says that you have to charge more often. Is that what you're saying? Instead of charging once a night, you're charging two. Yeah.
But he's got the EX30, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't keen on that car.
No, he knows I didn't like it.
I couldn't find the boot button until it was pointed out to me. Mind you, I was looking in the dark, and it's black against the black strip, which doesn't make it easy. But no, I didn't really like the car. I haven't had any experience of an electric in snow. I've certainly driven an electric over the winter when it's been cold, and certainly as soon as you switch everything on and you have the heater on to a reasonable temperature, you have the heated rear window on and all that sort of stuff, it drains the battery a lot quicker. Be interesting to see how he gets on. I don't know. I would have thought it would be like any other automatic in the snow. Except you've got the instant power. You don't have the progression through the gears. So whether you'll be able to control it more, I don't know. Be interesting to see how he gets on.
Sandy, you are now our experimental driver.
Yeah.
Okay? If the podcast lasts through the winter, and we're now on edition number 3, which we're very proud of, if it lasts in the winter, then we would like your report, please. So please sit down and put some words together.
Okay, so that's that taken care of. So if you've got any thoughts or comments, get in touch with us on the email address, scotlandthedrive at what is it?
Gmail.com.
Gmail.com.
Senior moments.
I know. There's a lot of them these days.
I know.
Now, you've got a competition.
I have, yeah.
What are you going to do?
What I'm going to do is, coming a little later in the programme is Lorraine. She's been test driving. We decided to send her down to London for a Chinese, and she's been test driving.
Yeah. Long way to go for a
I know. She enjoyed it. So she went down on our behalf to test drive the new Chery Tiggo. So that's coming up fairly shortly. We will hear her report on that. Pay attention to her report, because I want you to tell me, please, how long has Chery been making cars? That's the question, and you'll find the answer in her piece.
What, Chery the brand?
Chery the brand.
Chery the Chinese brand?
Yes, yeah,
How long
not
have
the
they been-
Datsun Cherry.
No.
I know that's where your mind was going, but not everybody's as old as you to
I
remember
know.
that.
No, that's what
Right.
was in my mind, yeah.
So instead of, or indeed, in addition to the mug, I have here a very exclusive thing that you don't get. The public don't get. We get, because we
Sometimes I got one.
Is that why you looked at it enviously? So I have here, of course, the Chery Tiggo is a member of the JQ family. So we have here this fabulous picnic bag. Think summer. Okay, I know it's not at the moment, but think summer. It's got everything in here. In there, there's knives, forks, plates, champagne glasses.
No champagne, though. Just the glass.
No, unless you want to come up with it.
No.
Anyway, right, okay. God, I'm giving away my bag and he wants us to get champagne now. So we've got this bag, and as I say, it's got all these things in here. Really is an absolutely superb competition prize, and you won't get it anywhere else.
And a blanket as well.
A blanket, and also what I thought was really cool. Oh, that was quite good actually. This is a cool bag on the side for your bottle of champagne, and inside here is all insulated as well for your food, any food you want to take in. So it's rather nice. The question that's coming up, as I say, is how long has Chery been making cars? Listen out for Lorraine's report. And your answers, please, to scotlandthedrive@gmail.com.
And you can't get that anywhere else.
Somebody will prove me wrong.
Well,
yeah, you know.
You can probably spend a fortune, almost as much as a Scottish.
You won't get it with JQ on it. Let's face it. That is for motoring subscribers like ourselves, and we're too miserable normally to give them away.
That's pretty good. That's great. Okay, so so you have to pay attention to Lorraine.
Absolutely, as I always do. I always play.
Yeah. This is Scotland the Drive with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.
So what else have we got coming up? What we've been driving over the year. Let's look back over the year. If you can remember back over the year, what you liked and what you didn't like.
I think I'd like to also have a quick chat about Tesla, because we've both driven Tesla for the first time.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting. I had it a few weeks before you, and you do the rota, so I never understand that. But anyway, I had it and you've just had it.
Right.
So we should talk about our experiences on that.
Talk about Tesla and lots of other cars as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So and Grant Stott.
Grant Stott. Yes, my first drive.
The Panto villain will be taking time off from the Panto to talk to us about his first drive, and he's got some interesting stories about his adventures with a Cortina, among other things. So more about that coming up. In the meantime, the news. Right. So I was on the wireless this week. I've been on the wireless a couple of times this week, but one of the things I was on about was the government not going ahead with their plans to reduce the speed limit on single carriageway roads from 60 to 50. And I think it's very welcome. It's actually a bit of common sense for once, but I can't, you mentioned this before about potholes, aren't they? Isn't it a coincidence that they're repairing all the potholes just before we're coming up to an election? And just before we're coming up to an election, they decide to abandon something which 20,000 motorists had 20,000 responses to their consultation about whether they should reduce the speed limits. And as a result of that, they've decided not to do it just before the election.
But it has cost just over £500,000 so far for them to say, no, we're not doing it. And the money that is getting wasted surely has to be called out.
Yeah, well, they could have saved that money and just kept it the same.
But who in the government knows anything about, as I've said before, about cars? They don't. They don't.
Well, I think that might get a response. But actually, there are a couple of MSPs who I think know about cars, but not very many. But you see, cars are not politically correct. They're bad. When I was doing this thing on 5 Live, I said, one of the things that seems to be happening is that the car is demonized. It's a bad thing. There are no benefits to the car, and that's absolute nonsense. It's independent freedom. It gives you the chance to drive where you want, when you want. We should be celebrating the car rather than demonizing it. And I just feel there's this, on the part of the politicians, there's this feeling that, the cars are bad.
It's not cool. It's not cool. That's the problem.
I just saw one comment about these speed limits, and somebody said, yeah, let's make it a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on all roads, including motorways. Can you imagine? 20 miles an hour on a motorway. Absolute nonsense. That's like saying, yeah, well, let's just do away with all traffic and we won't have any road safety issues anymore.
Well, I think it was the first podcast we had that I'd mentioned and threw a statement in something along the lines of, what do councils have across the UK? What do councils have against the motorist? Because they put so many barriers up. And the reaction to that one comment has been amazing.
Yeah.
Because people are agreeing. We can't look at high streets and say, all the shops are closing. Well, we've stopped people being allowed to get near the shops. And, it just goes on. And we need a better way of thinking. I don't blame the death of the high street on councils. And when I see people writing in the papers and letters page and saying the council should be doing something about the empty shops, there's not a lot the councils can do about the empty shops. They don't run the empty shops.
Oh, but they're not helping. They're making it difficult for people to. I accept that the car can create problems of congestion and pollution. Although pollution is less of an issue than it was, but the car is here to stay. We're not going to get rid of the car. The car is here to stay. I'm delighted to say the car is here to stay.
Yeah.
But we've got to live with it. We've got to work with it rather than against it. And I just feel that politicians generally, and this is such a generalization, but politicians generally don't like cars.
That's very true. They come out that way anyway.
And so there we are. So we're pleased. Thank you, Scottish Government, for not deciding to drop the speed limit. And they're possibly going to increase the speed limit for HGVs.
HGVs, yeah. Sensible.
Because when drivers are restricted in their hours, so they have to make the most of all the time that they've got on the road. And when they're restricted in speed, it can cause all sorts of problems. It puts up costs for all of us. And it can lead to frustration on the part of motorists who are held up behind. And that's what can lead to accidents. But speed limits are not the problem, or speeding is not the problem. Bad driving is the problem when it comes to road safety. And so I'm pleased that they've come to this decision, but connected to the forthcoming election. The other thing I was going to talk about was North Coast 500.
Yeah. I noticed that you jotted it down. You wanted to talk about it. Why?
Well, I think the North Coast 500 is great. It's brought a lot of business to that area. 510 miles, 512 miles, I think it is, right, around the top coast of Scotland. So it's brought a lot of business to hotels and B&Bs and all that sort of stuff round what is otherwise a fairly quiet area of Scotland. But there have been problems caused not least for locals who are having trouble getting about their business because of the amount of traffic on the road. And then you get selfish people who, I hesitate to mention camper vans, but camper vans emptying their toilets in laybys and this sort of thing. So it's antisocial behaviour on the part of the people who are going there because it's a beautiful part of the country and that they're destroying it. So there's going to be a review of what's happening with the North Coast 500, the benefits and the negatives to do with it. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. Have you done the 500?
No. Myself and Lorraine have talked about doing it, but it's getting the time.
Yeah, I know.
And it's hopefully maybe this year.
I've never actually done it all in one go. I've done all the bits of it, but not in one go. It's quite an undertaking to do it. But actually, the times I've been on it, maybe it's the time of year that I go. I was there around about this time last year, and the weather conditions were were pretty bad. I stopped in Betty Hill. I stayed at the Betty Hill Hotel, and I was paying the bill the following day. And this was December. It was right about this time, just before Christmas. And I said, so are you busy over Christmas, New Year? No, we close this week, actually. I said, oh, what, opening again in January? And she said, no, April. Close from December till April, which is amazing. I would have thought there was lots of business. So anyway, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the North Coast 500. Formula One. Now then. Actually, I was talking to a friend of mine, Sports Personality of the Year.
Yeah.
One of the sports personalities is Lando Norris. And he said to me, what do you think about that? And I said, well, you know, fair enough, he's a world champion, you know, great. And he said, but it's not sport, is it? Formula One is not sport. And I thought, well, is it sport?
Is it?
I don't know.
Has it not gone beyond sport? I have to admit, I've tried to get into it. Lorraine is into Formula One, and she can sit and watch it. I'll go away and do something else. It's boring.
I'd rather cut my toenails than watch.
Well, you know where we stand then.
Just think it's so boring. And it's not, well, is it sport? Technically it's sport, but it's actually just big business. It's lots of money, huge amounts of money. I mean, I'd love to see what the total figure associated with Formula One is. It must be trillions. The amount of money that's put into it. And it all comes down to the technology. Now, I think the technology is, well, as far as I know, the technology is brilliant because I don't really watch it. But the technology has led to improvements in the cars that the rest of us drive. So from that point of view, yeah, it's useful and it's worthwhile. But is it sport? I don't think so. It's big business in the same way that football generally is big business.
It is.
And that, you know, we can talk about the World Cup, but we won't go there.
No, don't go there.
But football is big business, and you have all these fans supporting the clubs and spending thousands to go out to America if they can get a ticket. But is it sport? Or is it big business? And
Formula One, there's the question. Is it sports? Do give us your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. You can get in touch, scotlandthedrive@gmail.com.
And the other word that's going to appear in the dictionary is carspreading. Now, you've done this.
Yes, we were there weeks ago.
In edition 1, yeah. But you were talking more about the weight of cars.
That's right.
You?
This has gone back to one of the councils in Devon or Cornwall, thereabouts, have decided to charge, if you're in the high street and you park in one of the council car park spaces on the high street, depending upon the weight of your car is what you will be charged.
But Carspreading is about the size of car.
Right.
And, you know, if you get an original Mini and park it alongside the current Mini, particularly one of the, the Countryman, the estate, it's almost twice the size. Well, maybe that's an exaggeration. It's half as big again. And I was reminded of the story. A friend of mine, his father, he always wanted this new car, and he bought this. He'd had a car for years. He traded it in, bought the new car, took it home, put it in his garage, and then he couldn't get out because the doors wouldn't open wide enough. Because although the garage was the same size, the car had increased in width and length, and he couldn't get out the car. So Carspreading, we're going to see that in the dictionary, I think, before long.
Interesting.
Yeah, right.
Just on the back of that, I was just reading about a certain town council in Scotland who have just opened a new car park. Well, it's an old car park that's been revamped. They've spent £14 million on it. And there are far too many electric car spaces compared to normal car spaces because they probably got a grant for it. But the spaces for the electric cars are a lot wider than the spaces for normal cars. Normal cars are having to squeeze into each other, and the space on either side of the charging cars. And already, I mean, it's not even been open a week, and there have been complaints.
Yeah, because there are no spaces for the normal cars.
No, absolutely not.
Because they're all taken up with electric spaces. Well, should electric spaces Well, they have to be given the allocation because the charging points there.
Yeah. And I get that, but I think we're just at the moment, there are possibly a lot of companies, and I can understand that BP and various, they're having to look at, well, people are cutting down on using fossil fuels, so to speak. So they're really trying to find the next way. So there are too many charging stations being set up. One at the bottom of my road, which is constantly empty. It's empty.
I think people would disagree that there's too many.
No.
I think there's not enough. That's one of the problems going back to...
Well, there's not enough in the wilderness where you live, but in the city, around in the city that I live in, it's very well catered for. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the ones of Arnold Clark, all within a matter of a mile of each other.
We were going to talk about the Tesla. Just an aside, when I had the Tesla, I went down to a Tesla charging point, and I think there was 7 or 8 charging points. I got there, all of them occupied.
Mm-hmm.
And this was middle of the day, all occupied by Teslas, all sitting there charging. And I didn't have to wait too long, but that's an indication of how things are going to go.
Yeah.
When do you go, well, although I was at a filling station this morning and I had to queue to get petrol. There are, what the problem is? There are too many cars on the road.
That's what it is. The councils have got it right. Let's park Tesla there for a moment, and let's go to Lorraine and her report on the Chery Tiggo. Now remember, if you fancy winning this marvellous, hard to get hold of picnic hamper thing that you can, it's the bag, doesn't include any food, should add that, or drink, but you've got everything else in there. Have a listen to this report, and the question we're asking in is, how long has Chery been making cars?
Scotland the Drive. Lorraine's Lane.
Hi Alan, hi Ali, thank you for having me on this edition, and thank you too for sending me to test drive the Chery Tiggo 9 Super Hybrid, which is from the latest Chinese manufacturer to hit our shores. To some, including us, Chery is a new name to the car buying public in the UK. So whilst I was there, I grilled PR chief Ian Wallace to get the lowdown on the brand, which was really quite interesting. Whilst Chery may be new to the UK, he told me they've actually been around for 28 years, and it's one of the oldest manufacturers in the Chinese car industry. Started by a group of just 20 or so officials in the city of Wuhu, not sure if I pronounced that correctly. The first car was the Fenggun in 1999, and it was based on the Seat Toledo and sold around 50,000 cars. Decades later, Chery has become China's largest vehicle exporter. 2 of the group's subsidiary brands are a bit more known to us. That's the JQ and the Omoda, because they've already made significant inroads into the market. Now, you two are both old enough to remember the heydays of going on launches when we were all made to feel just that wee bit special. And some people's launches were maybe a bit better than others, and one PR in particular that I remember was Kate Dixon. And you'll know, of course, that Kate was with Audi for many years. And her attention to detail on branding was just limitless. You may even remember the Audi logo was made into circles in the sand on a beach at one launch in Le Castellet. Well, Ian and Hannah have certainly upped the ante on recent launches on behalf of Chery, and they have massive attention to detail as well. Do you like my little panda, my Chery panda? See you. The Tiggo 9 event was informative, it was fun, and the time afforded to test driving was just right. There is only one model of Tiggo 9 available, and that is the Summit grade, and it also only comes with one powertrain, the self-charging super hybrid CSH system. Keeps it just really simple. It can achieve up to 650 miles in total range, including 91 in pure electric. That's pretty competitive, I thought. So what's it like, I hear you shouting? Well, ignore the perception of anything Chinese being of low quality. These days have long gone, especially when it comes to cars. It has indeed shifted significantly, and the Tiggo 9 is a prime example of that. It's well built on the outside, very stylish. On the inside, the materials are very much high-end, and it exudes luxury on the inside and on the out without being overstated. You know that saying, a place for everything and everything in its place? I think that was Mary Poppins that said that. Well, that's what it's like. It's just, everything is just to hand. There's fantastic tech, all you could possibly want, all within easy reach and very easy to use. And the comfort is second to none. Passenger seat can go straight back. You can have a complete flat lie down if that's what you like to do. And the drive was just outstanding. What more can I say? Now, there are some other super seven-seaters out there. Comes to mind the Volvo CX-90, the Mazda CX-80 comes to mind, and of course the Kia Sorento, which is a real favourite of ours too. I would challenge anyone who's looking for a seven-seater to test drive the Chery Tiggo 9 and not think it leads the way for the needs of larger families. I was told the price of the car before I started driving it, and I wish I hadn't. We're speaking about around £45,000 here. However, if Ian had said to me that was another 10,000 on top of that, I would have still said it was actually really good value for money. You know, I've been watching some TV recently and I was looking at some blind testing, and that's done when consumers are asked to try certain products from Waitrose, Tesco's, Aldi, other supermarkets are available, and quite often they come up with the most cost-effective brand coming out tops for quality. Now, please note, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that we go about test driving cars whilst blindfolded. That wouldn't be very much health and safety. But I think if you got behind the car, if the bad stops of us got behind the wheel of this Tiggo, they would think they were driving a much more traditional upmarket brand. I truly believe it's an age thing as well, and Ian confirmed that. They've done some research recently and showed us the age demographic increases, motorists are less likely to consider purchasing a Tiggo. However, the age 30 to 40 group are very keen to venture into unknown territory, as the quality, style and price are very much important to consider when buying a new car. So, I'm either a very canny Scot or I'm just much younger than my biological years. I wish I'd had the chance to test drive the Chery Tiggo 9 before voting closed for Car of the Year recently. Put simply, it would have had my vote way beyond anything else. Let's not forget about the superb car for Scottish Car of the Year 2026. And going back to what Mary Poppins says, she describes herself as practically perfect in every way. That describes the Tiggo perfectly.
Scotland the Drive. Lorraine's Lane.
Thanks, Lorraine, and she's off to do another one this week. She's away with Kia, so we'll be finding out what she thinks of the Kia on one of the next editions of the podcast. Just a reminder, if you fancy winning this, and cameraman there, he's eyeing it, so I have to hold on to it here now. This is a picnic bag which has got plates, it's got champagne flutes, it's got knives, forks. If I just do this, it might work without all coming out. There we go.
Look at
You see? And even got a little board to cut your cheese and everything on, and the knife.
I think that's for cutting the lemon for your gin and tonic.
Oh, is that what it is? Well,
And
Sorry.
some confusion. It says JQ.
yeah, JQ.
But it's not
Chery's
part of the JQ.
Chery's part of the JQ family. So you get the rug and everything with that. If you fancy winning that, the question is, how long has Chery been making cars, as Lorraine told us in there? But how long has Chery been making cars? Give us your answer, and the email address is scotlandthedrive@gmail.com.
Okay, so
Tesla.
this year's car highlights. I thought we could talk about the highlights first of all, and kind of not quite in a highlight, not quite in a low light. The Tesla, the new Model Y.
Yeah,
You had it first. What do you
I
think?
had it first. The first time I'd ever driven a Tesla, and I couldn't really have cared less whether I ever drove a Tesla. It was something that I think you're swayed through Elon Musk. You may decide, no, I'm not putting more money in his pocket. But I wasn't really into that. It didn't really bother me. I think I went to see a Tesla, but wasn't allowed to drive it when it was first came out.
Yeah.
You can come down and see it in Edinburgh, but you're not allowed to get in it. Like, again, what use is that? But anyway, that was the first experience of it. So I had this bit of a negative mind, and I was so proved wrong. I really enjoyed the Tesla Model Y. I thought it was a great car. The plus things for me was the speed. I thought it went very fast, and I really enjoyed that for an old man like me.
Not too fast, I hope.
No, not too fast. No, it only went up to 125 miles an hour, so I sort of stopped there. I enjoyed the...
You're joking. I'm joking.
Of course.
Just to be clear.
I enjoyed the super fast charging as well. I thought I went to charge it, and it was some charging points that were at the back of a hotel. We went in, we had a bowl of soup, we come back out, and it was fully charged, which was absolutely superb. Range was just over 380 miles. Right?
Yeah.
Again, I drove to Glasgow in it from home, and when I got down, I went to the Tesla charge and just topped it up to get back. There was no charging anxiety on the road down. I felt quite relaxed. It was teeming with rain. Everything was on. The heaters were on. The radio was on. The wipers were going. And I don't really have a bad word to say about it, because I thought the drive itself of the car was great. It was very firm. Really enjoyed it. I read in a report from one of our colleagues, Jack, he was saying that the previous Y model, he thought this was a vast improvement, and he's driven quite a lot of the Teslas.
I think he took one to France.
I think the Alp.
The Alp. No trouble.
So I don't. The one thing I didn't like, but it's not restricted to Teslas. It's where we get the big screens on the dashboard, and everything has to be done through the screens, and I don't like that. I'd rather have a button to press. Don't see while I'm driving I should have to try and... but I know you loaded the app and experienced that, didn't you? I didn't.
Yeah, I am shocked that you liked it. I really am. I mean, I was impressed with it, but that doesn't mean to say I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm impressed by the technology. I think the technology is amazing. But you know, my overriding thought about the Tesla was, this car's more clever than I am. And I kept feeling... I had this feeling that it's going to get the better of me. You know, when I'm not paying attention, it's going to catch me out. And it almost caught me out a few times. What I liked was, let's talk about the things that I liked about it, because there are fewer of those than the things I didn't like. I liked that they put the indicator stop back on, because the previous model, I can't remember if I actually drove the previous model, but the previous model, you had to use the screen there were buttons on the steering wheel for the indicator. But so they put the stalk back, which is sensible. I mean, it makes perfect sense. They've also put a little button for one wipe of the wiper and one flash of the lights. But I experienced that. When I picked up the car, first of all, I was driving along and I was going through roadworks, and there was a lorry approaching from the left. And he was coming at a fair old lick, so I wanted to flash him. So I reached for the stalk to do a flash, and it doesn't flash. And how do I flash? I thought, if I got to go into the screen and find the headlight setting to give him a flash. Now, I discovered afterwards there is this button. But things like that.
Just to say, you weren't alone on that, because the first time Lorraine went out in it, she came back in and she said, I went to flash a car for him to come out, to let them out. Yeah. She says, I had no idea how to flash him.
Yeah, well, that was, I discovered later that that's how you do it. What else did I like? I liked the range is very good. I accept that. The charging is very simple. You just, and away you go. The acceleration is good. It's very smooth. The build quality is better. I drove one of the really early Teslas, and I thought, this is rubbish. I mean, the technology was great, but the build quality as a car was terrible.
Yeah.
And I actually heard lots of stories about 2, 3, 4-year-old Teslas. The doors were starting to get loose. They were not quite hanging off, but they were dropping because all the effort apparently had been put into the technology.
That sense,
and
yeah.
not so much into the build quality of the car. So the build quality was very good. So it felt well screwed together. I don't like the fact that everything is on the screen. You look at ahead of you, and there's nothing there. It's just black. And why can't they just have a small screen with your speed, for example? That's the thing you look at most, or you need to look at most, and you should be paying attention to most. And why they can't just have that? Okay, maybe it's a token gesture, but just do it. And it felt as though the whole car has been designed to show how clever they are. That, Tesla, oh, look at these Tesla engineers. They've done this, they've done that, whether they need to or not. And my worry is the next thing they're going to get rid of, I think I touched on this before, is windscreen wipers. Windscreen wipers have been with us for centuries. The old principle of this blade moving back and forward. Why? Because it works. And at some point, an engineer is going to say, I think we could do it differently. Whether it would do it better is another matter. And I just feel with Tesla, the whole thing is, oh, aren't we clever? And in the back of all that is Musk. And I wouldn't, frankly, even if I could afford one, I wouldn't buy a Tesla because I don't want to put money in his pocket. It's as simple as that. But I accept they're clever cars, and if you like that sort of stuff, fantastic. But I wouldn't have one.
And if you would like to buy one, it will cost you £49,990 for the Model Y. And I'm there that if I had the money and I wanted all these little bits, but I get what Alan's saying, because a Tesla driver is a certain type of person, aren't they? And they want to have these things, and they want to be seen to drive a Tesla. And whether Alan and I like them or not, it doesn't matter, because there are...
I don't think Elon's going to be putting any...
he's not going to be worried about it. See that, Alan Douglas? No. I think, if you look around the road, there are lots of them about, and, there are certain people who...
It was interesting, because when I went to the charging point, the supercharger, I had to look at, because everybody's sitting in their car, and I had to look at them, and there's a wide range of people. There was older, there was younger, there was middle. They were all men, interestingly.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know what the standard profile of a Tesla driver is, but or a Tesla owner, but it seems to be quite a broad range.
Yeah.
But anyway, it'd be interesting to hear if we've got any Tesla owners out there.
Please get in touch.
Say how wonderful they are.
It was a thumbs up from me.
And a thumbs down from me. Right, what else have we been driving?
Very quickly, we've been looking at some other cars. It's been actually quite a good year for cars.
It's been a very good year.
A very good year. And that's related as well through the cars we were talking about in the last edition. If you haven't watched it yet, edition 2 features the Scottish Car of the Year. And there was quite a lot of the cars that we've been driving came up in there. Any of them struck you as...
I don't know about you. It's difficult to remember. What a problem we have. We drive so many cars, we can't remember what we've driven. But it is a problem. It's the ones that really stick in your memory for...
the wrong reasons.
The right reasons or the wrong reasons. But the good ones, let's see, what was there? The Renault 5 and the Alpine. We both liked them.
Both liked them.
You weren't sure about the Renault 4. In fact,
no, I wasn't. It's not that I wasn't sure about it. I just didn't like it.
Right. No. I liked the Alpha that I had that we talked about in the last edition. The Subaru Forester. I quite liked it.
Yeah.
It was kind of old technology.
That's what I was going to say. It was, you knew what you were getting, and it did the job.
Yeah. In contrast to the Tesla, this was an old style car. It just did the job. Everything was where you thought it should be. I liked it. When I got in it, first of all, I thought, oh, this is old fashioned.
Yeah.
But actually, maybe it's me. I like old fashioned. So the Forester and an Audi Q5. Did you have that?
Yes.
That was a hybrid.
That was a hybrid, yeah.
Yeah. We went right up to the Murray Coast and had a few days up there. And I drove, I can't remember how many miles I did, but I did a lot of miles. And when I handed it back, it was still half full. It was brilliant for economy. It was really good, and I liked it. And a nice looking car, just traditional, straightforward, no messing. Everything worked. You knew where everything was, and it was good. The Polestar 4.
Yeah.
That's the one without the
back window. I passed one on the motorway the other day, and I thought it does look odd but nice from the back. You know, it has that design that's slightly different.
And again, great range.
Yes.
From memory. It was one of these ones you just don't worry about the range because you know the range is good. So nice car, good quality. You could tell the Volvo heritage there. Stylish.
I'm told exciting things to come this next year.
Oh, right.
From Polestar.
Well, we'll watch out for that.
And talking of that, we're getting a knock on the door here that we're talking about the cars that we liked, but a gentleman, if we can call him that, who's decided to tell us about his cars, has now arrived. And he's normally late with his lines when he goes on stage on Panto. But Grant Stott is here.
Oh, he's the villain of Panto.
Oh, yes, he is.
Oh, no, he's not.
This is Scotland, the Drive, my first car.
So, Grant Stott, we've interrupted your rehearsals for the Panto at the Festival Theatre. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. I'm a wee bit discombobulated at the moment because normally by this weekend in the year, we should be actually open. But we're only like 3 or 4 days into rehearsal. We don't actually open for another nearly a fortnight, which is not like us at all, but it's just the way things have worked. We should be going back to the King's Theatre. Wasn't quite ready this year, so they've shoehorned us in. So we're having to wait till the Bally are finished at the festival, and then we can start. So, yeah, it feels weird walking about the streets of Edinburgh at this time of year without having a Panto to go to, but we'll be there soon.
And you're the villain once again. You're a good villain, aren't you?
Love being the villain, and it's you walk on stage and the kids boo you, so your work is done. As soon as you step on, don't have to open your mouth.
So we're here to talk about cars.
Brilliant!
You like your cars, don't you?
I do like my cars. I wouldn't call myself a car enthusiast or a car snob, but I just love my cars, and I don't really mind what car I drive. But my only sort of insistence is that it has all the spec, it has the toys, it has all the latest gadgets in it. I love buttons, I love things to happen in the car, I love comfort, I love it to do things, and certainly the way technology has gone over the last few years, I think cars are getting more and more exciting to drive.
And it's a bit of a contrast to your first car.
my first car, when I passed my test, right, let me take you back. I passed my test in 1986. I had just joined the police and they sent me down to Jedburgh in the Borders, and at that point I did not have a driver's license. So the first thing, so this caused great consternation with my inspector. It was like, they've given me a copper who can't drive, what good are you to me? So they had to put me through, and the police they can put you through your driving test, which is slightly more advanced. And then they have the police driving test, which is like the advanced driving test. So they put me through my driving test in the Borders. So then I got myself a car. And the first car I got was, I think it was like a Talbot Sunbeam, which was kind of like a Chrysler Avenger, a very similar thing. It was white with a black vinyl roof. And it was literally, I got it from the Edinburgh Advertiser, a sort of newspaper, for like a couple £100. And I was so excited, but it didn't have a heater that worked. So, of course, that was fine when I got it in the summertime. But driving down the A68 between Edinburgh and Jedburgh every week, as I was doing to go to my job as a copper, I soon realised the importance of a good heater in your car.
So, the time as a police officer didn't last too long, did it? I mean, before you got...
No. No, I was 4 years I survived. 4 years. I did a couple of years in the Borders and then finally got moved up to Edinburgh. And I soon realised, once I got out of the Borders and back home, that it wasn't because I was homesick that I was unhappy. I just wasn't very good at the job, to be absolutely honest. I think I was never going to be Taggart. I was never going to be a really good police. So I was young enough and daft enough to make the daft decision to go to radio, which is what I did.
Amazing again. I mean, your career in radio, and we both know and love the late Tom Steele, who got us going in radio. But it was an amazing career you had, and you still do radio. You still dip your toes in.
Ali, like yourself, you've worked in radio much, even longer than I have. But once it's in your blood, it's kind of. I think I'll always work in radio. I mean, I'm still, got a show on Radio Scotland at the moment, and I just, there's nothing that gives you that buzz. I'm lucky enough. Panto's fantastic. I'm working in River City as well just now, and they're all great, but in very different ways. But for me, and I think it's because it's where it all started for me, and everything that I have gone on to do since leaving the police is all down to the skills and what I learnt from doing overnights on Max AM 1548, back in those days.
Amazing.
And everything came from there. Everything that I got, without a shadow of a doubt, is all down to what I've learned and, the opportunities I got from doing in radio. So I'll always be grateful to radio, and I still love it. I still get a buzz.
This is all very well. We're supposed to be talking about cars.
Yes, we're talking about cars.
Yeah.
So you got me and Ali on. You got me and Ali on. We're
That he had on radio brought cars through as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So this Talbot Sunbeam, it had no heater. It was a bit of an adventure, was it?
It was a bit of an adventure, and and as I say, that was my first car that I'd got, and I had to get a car to get me up and back to Edinburgh for my days off. But then because I didn't have a heater, and then I started earning money, so I thought, I can up my game a wee bit. And I remember there was a garage in Kelso, which was just next door beat to mine. Bob Hope was the guy's name. I should have known. And he had a lovely sky blue 1.6 Cortina, and it was the old box Cortina, back in the 80s when Ford produced these fabulous tanks. And I'd always admired them. My dad loved Ford Capris. We had Ford Capris in the house growing up through the 70s and into the 80s. So Fords were always kind of around. So I thought, right, I'll get a Ford Cortina. And I thought that's going to be a lovely felt like a truck bundling up and down the A68. And it had a heater, but what it didn't have was a built-in cassette player. So I didn't have any tunes in my car. And I remember setting off for Jedburgh one night, and because I didn't have a cassette player, I put a ghetto blaster on the passenger seat so I could have some tunes as I was driving. And I literally set off from Mum and Dad's house, and I was changing the tape to listen to as I was driving up towards Fairmile Head in Edinburgh. And, unbeknownst to me, the road started veering off to the left. But I carried on going to the right and collided with two traffic islands and a lamppost in the middle of the road and crashed my car. So it was an unfortunate early start to my driving career. Morning. Theatre, you just got to love it. And so it was an unfortunate early start to my driving career. So yeah, a couple of bumps on the way, but got them out of the way, and I've since learned not to try and change the tape whilst you're driving.
Yeah, it's a good principle, and you've progressed since then. So what do you drive now then?
At the moment, I'm driving a BMW. I've been lucky enough. I was kind of, when the kid was thinking back, what sort of cars that I drove in the late 90s. I used to drive a lot of Saabs, and then when the kids came along, I favoured the Honda CR-V, which was a really nice, big family car that you could chuck everything in at the back and chuck the kids in. And then when they got older, I moved over and drove Mercs and BMWs. And now I'm in as I say, it was quite a small comparison what I had before. But I've had it for about nearly 3 years on a lease. So it's about to run out in May. So I'm getting to the point now when I'm ready to change it. And so the 216 is great. It's a small engine by comparison to some of the bigger cars that are out there. But to be honest, and I've been doing a lot across the Central Belt from Edinburgh to Glasgow on the M8 and to Dumbarton where we film River City. And it's been a smashing wee car to scoot about. But there's been things that I've missed about the bigger car. When you're clearing stuff out, you don't really have the boot space. So I'm thinking when this deal runs out in May and that car goes back, slightly bigger car, maybe back to BMW or Merc, because I quite fancy the electric car. And I actually, coming onto the podcast, I wanted to pick your brains
Oh.
Oh, is it?
Touchy
Is it?
subject.
I know it's a very contentious subject, isn't it? But it's like, for me,
Really?
I'm kind of thinking, it might be the way ahead, because you can get 350-mile range in an electric battery now. The technology is as good as it is. Oh,
No,
If you're lucky,
is that,
you
is,
you quite
is that a
obviously have not
nonsense?
watched any of the previous podcasts.
and you're talking about you like all the toys and everything. As soon as you start switching these toys on, your battery
Drains the
goes
battery.
down, and you run out. It's you have to take a careful look at it. But
Okay.
yeah. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, I will be a little bit more frank and say, knowing the mileage that you do, Grant, don't.
Yeah.
Don't it just will not work for you at the moment.
Well, I'm
I've always.
slightly
I
more
was just going to
flexible
say.
on it. I mean, look
Yeah.
around it. There are some good options.
I was kind of put off because I was kind of worried that the infrastructure just isn't quite there. And, we've all done it. We all jump in the car in the morning about to go to Glasgow or wherever. You go, "Oh, I've only got less than a quarter of a tank or whatever, I better fill up." Now, if you do that and the car's electric and you're on your way to work, you can't sit and wait for 2 hours for the car to charge. That was the worry.
Yeah.
That was what put me off the most.
I do driving up and down to Glasgow almost every couple of days. I'm on the road, and that is my problem. It is that I do not have the time to stop for 45 minutes to an hour to charge up in the middle. But having said that, if you were to go for an electric car full time, you would have a charger at your house. That is the way to do it.
Yeah.
And you charge it overnight at a very reasonable rate that you can negotiate for your overnights charging, and you get up in the morning and the car's charged, and away you go. And that's fine. But it's the getting back sometimes. In most cars I can't get from where I live to the central belt and back again.
And then the Chancellor's going to hit you with extra charges as well, you see. So
yes, I just saw that in the budget last week, and so when they say it's like got 350 miles of range, in real terms, what do you think that is? So because I don't need 350 miles in a day before I charge or fill my car up again, usually. But if I drive, so I'm going to drive to Glasgow and back, that's 150 miles tops. Would I manage that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I drove recently. We had on test for the first time in our association. We get a lot of test cars, and Al and I are lucky. We get different cars every week to drive, and we write about them, we vote about them. For the first time ever, I drove a Tesla for a week. Alan hasn't had it yet, but it's on its way. And as I said to the lady in Tesla, I've managed to write about and broadcast about cars for 40 years without ever sitting my bum in a Tesla, and it doesn't worry me. And Elon's managed to sell all these cars without me, so it doesn't really matter. But actually, I loved the car. I really did enjoy it. But my biggest problem was I went to Glasgow and I had to go and find the Tesla supercharged because there wasn't enough to get me back home again. So, you just have to top up and be and just weigh up carefully.
Yeah, I mean, do a lot of research beforehand. But Ali's right; you've got to have a charger at home because that's it. It's like your mobile phone. You get into a system where you charge your phone at night or whatever while you're sleeping, and you do that with a car. So you set off in the morning, but it depends how much you're going to use it, where you're going to use it. But it'll be a bit of a challenge or a bit of a change from your Talbot Sunbeam, that's what. But don't switch the heater on because it'll drain you.
And don't use the wipers. No, don't use the wipers. No. And if you want the radio, forget it. Yeah.
Honestly, back then I had no idea what was coming, did we? We had no idea.
Alan Douglas and Ali Bally. This is Scotland the Drive.
So that's Grant Stott, who's on at the Festival Theatre, and he is very much the villain.
The panto villain. He always has been, of course. He always has been.
He's a villain in real life.
Yeah, how he ever became a policeman, I'll never know.
Right, okay. Just some thoughts to finish off. Headlights. Now,
yes.
there was some interesting statistics. 82% of drivers are concerned about being dazzled by vehicle headlights as the evenings become darker. And it's all to do with LED lights.
Yes.
Lights are getting, well, again, we talked about technology with the Tesla. If you look at, how boring is this? What a pedant am I? Have you ever sat or stood and looked at a vehicle headlight, a modern vehicle headlight? It's it's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
Headlights brilliant.
Yeah, white.
No, but headlights are amazing. The technology that goes into a headlight. I remember the days when, a headlight was a bulb, maybe 2 bulbs, and that was it, dip and full beam. Now they're an amazing piece of technology, which is great when you're behind the wheel and wanting to see where you're going. But when you're facing oncoming lights, it can be really dazzling. And as you get a bit older, as we are,
Yes.
Driving at night can be a challenge. And anyway, it's becoming quite an issue.
Well, I drive regularly a Mercedes V-Class, which this current one has the lights that dip and go on and down and off themselves. And it's quite strange because sometimes you get cars coming towards you that will flash you because they're too bright. And then other days, other nights and things, you go past all night and nobody ever flashes you. So I just don't get these lights at all. I don't understand the technology behind it.
But again, I was talking about wipers. They're going to do away with the wiper. They've done away with the dip, manually dipping. Why? I mean, what's so difficult about dipping? And I don't know that it's a good idea to have to rely on the technology to dip. And quite often I get anxious that it's not dipped. So I dip manually, so I override it anyway. And it just seems a pointless exercise. It's one of these things where the control is being taken away from the driver and handed over to technology for no particularly good reason. But yeah, it's a fact. And at night in the wet, the reflections, it can be really quite dazzling. I can see the benefits. You want to see where you're going, but equally you don't want to dazzle anybody else. But
your thoughts? Again, give us your thoughts on the new headlines. And finally, yeah, I saw this. It was about parents passing on vehicle maintenance tips and skills to their kids. This rang a bell with me because I remember years ago I was in a car with a young person, and we went to get fuel, and for some reason I couldn't be bothered getting out of the car. And I said, "Well, you fill it up." And he said to me, "How do I do that?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Oh, how do I put petrol in the car?" And I thought, well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, you pull up at the pump and you open the flap and you stick the petrol. He didn't know how to do it. Didn't know how to do it. So anyway, parents have been passing on skills, and there's lots of figures. Things like, well, refueling. 91% of parents had to teach their children how to refuel. Well, if you do it for the first time, somebody's got to show you.
I suppose so, yeah. Topping up the windscreen washer, checking the tyre pressure, checking tyres are safe and legal, following dashboard symbols, right down to changing a bulb. And this is all part of the young driver scheme. We talked about this before, which is good, letting young people...
oh, excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, not now. Thank you. Yeah, you just leave it.
An urgent phone. Sell or buy?
Probably, yes, I won't bother. No, I don't have a Tesla to sell.
Maybe that's somebody entering the competition. How did they get your number?
Oh, everybody's got my number.
Yeah, we all have your number, yeah.
Come on, get on with this.
Sort of stuff. So parents teaching young people what we consider to be sort of fairly basic stuff. But, in my day, my father, I suppose, showed me how to change spark plugs and how to do the points on a distributor. Points on a distributor.
I don't think that would happen now.
But, well, no, because you need a degree in computer science to work on a car.
Okay.
Right, so that's us.
That's almost us.
That's us.
Yeah. Just a reminder, if you are listening on Spotify, TikTok, or anything like that, we are on YouTube as well. So you get the full Maybe not a
full
good
effect.
recommendation, yeah. But give us a look, and please press that button that says subscribe, because that would help us a lot. The numbers last month were amazing, and we put that down to the Scottish Car of the Year and Gillian Shedden, nothing to do with us. But of course, everybody will be watching tonight and at the moment for Grant Stott and things like
Oh,
that.
yes, of course. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with even more. And we've got
Back
some
in the
nice,
year.
so got some interesting interviews fixed up for the coming weeks and months. So stay tuned, as they say.
Yeah, we've been astonished that people we have approached to do these interviews on My First Drive, they've all said yes.
I know.
Have you looked at this?
They maybe regret it afterwards.
Absolutely.
They said yes in the first place. So we've got some lots of interesting interviews coming up, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, have a good Christmas.
Absolutely, and a good New Year.
Scotland the Drive with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.